I'm so excited about this. Just having seen, I had a sneak preview of the film. Sorry, I couldn't hold myself back. But yeah, it's excellent, and I love the way that the kind of the partnership between Camden's fantastic parents and UAL and your students. It's just, and of course Becca and her team. It's a really good example. Anyway, I'm going to leave others to say these things. I want to say it to you before we start the meeting.
Fab. I should probably say Martin is Deputy Chief Executive of Camden Council, and he's also the Executive Director of the Supporting People Directorate, which is where children and family work sits. And he's also a thoroughly nice man, and he loves rugby. And he's a dad.
Really warm welcome to everybody on the call. I think we were just saying in the build up to the meeting how excited everybody is to be coming together it's the opportunity for the output from the project, the fact that Camden Family Changemakers project to actually feedback, to set out for senior leaders, both the politicians and people working in the various organisations, whether that's the council or in schools or in the police even. I know that we've got the acting borough commander with us, so a whole range of people to hear the really important outcomes from the project, so that informs how we go forward. And in particular, it's a really strong example of that kind of participatory design, the way that there are things about the way we work in Camden that we want to do even more. One is putting the voice of parents, of children, of residents, of citizens at the heart of the things that we do. We really want to spend some time doing some careful listening and before we act together, rather than starting with what do you think of our ideas, and there's something about doing that in a way which recognises the importance of justice, and social justice in particular. So for the services to come together to hear from Camden parents, but also to be facilitated in that process by one of our outstanding Camden institutions, which we think of as an anchor of the borough, to come together to do this piece of work is really fantastic. So I'm Martin Pratt. I should have said this at the beginning, Deputy Chief Executive of the Council. It's also my privilege to be the Director of Children's Services for Camden, so I'm responsible for these services, and my job is to chair the day, make sure, or the meeting, make sure people get an opportunity to speak and ask questions, and I'm going to do my best to do that over the next hour. But now I'd like to invite Councillor Angela Mason, who is the Cabinet Member for Best Start in Life, the Cabinet Member responsible for children's services and education in the Council, to welcome everybody and give some opening remarks. Angela, are you?
Sorry, start again. Welcome everybody. I'm really pleased to see so many people here today, because I think this is a really exciting project. I think really for 4 reasons. First of all, as we all know, COVID has changed all our lives, and this is a project that was about innovation and change, about not doing things in the same way, and asking the simple question, really, of how do we provide good help in what we hope will be a post-pandemic society. Secondly, I think it's exciting because the answer to that question is being given to families, and many of you are here, I can see, on the call today. And as Martin was, I think, suggesting, I think putting families and the experience, strength of families at the heart of our practice in children's services is a really important change that will fundamentally improve and help our residents and improve our professional practice. So that's exciting. And I think even some people on the call I was talking to earlier this morning, our parent champions, I see Anna, I think, is there. Because I very much hope that the work of the Children's Trust Partnership Board, which brings together different organisations within Camden who are all working to improve the lives of children and families, I hope that what our learning from the Changemakers project will actually help our work there. And thirdly, of course, as Martin has also suggested, we're very fortunate in Camden to be able to have a number of wonderful institutions. And so it's really great to bring together the experience of our residents and our families with that of London College of Communication, who can help and have been helping us to translate experiences into new ways of doing things and delivering services. And finally, I was absolutely fascinated by this notion of design for justice, which I hadn't heard about before. And really that's saying, as I understand it, that when you're designing any service or making recommendations, there are several important questions to ask. And you have to ask, is anybody being harmed by this design? Is anyone being left out or not valued by these recommendations? And finally, a really, really important question, in these designs, who gets the power and who doesn't? So these are sort of fundamental questions of social justice, which Martin began to talk about at the beginning of this session. So it's really exciting, innovative work, and I'm looking forward to the presentations. Very eagerly, I can say. So over to you, Becca. And thank you for everybody who's been involved.
Thank you, Angela. So Becca, I think without further ado, we get to actually hear from our Family Changemaker Expert Parents Group. So over to you.
Thank you, Martin. I'm now going to hand over to Camden Family Changemakers Expert Parent Group, who are going to tell you in their own words what they would like people on the call to hear and what they would like you to do. So I'm going to hand to Osob. Osob, coming to you first. Not to worry, I will read Osob's section and then I'll pass to Rani. So, Osob's section, we are members of the Camden Family Changemakers Expert Parent Group. We are all parents and family members who live in Camden. We come from 12 Camden wards, we represent 11 different ethnicities, and our children range from newborn baby to young adults. I'll now hand over to Rani. So Rani, if you want to unmute and you can carry on.
Hello. We worked together for 10 weeks on the Family Changemaker project to create our design vision for good family help. 20 parents and family members took part. We want Camden to thrive, to keep a strong community where everyone is always looking out for each other, and where Camden and the people in it can shine. I will now pass you on to Uba.
We would like you to know that we family have come together to help bring changing for the better for families and to benefit the community. Our design vision has two parts. The first part is our values. This is how we think good health for families should be. The second part is our principle. This is what we think good health for families should be. I will now hand it to Selena.
Now that you have seen the work we have done and our design vision, we ask you for 5 things. We ask for number 1, use our design vision in the plans you are making for Camden after COVID. We ask the leaders on this call who sit on boards, forums or groups that are planning Camden's future after COVID to include our design vision into your plans for the future of our homes. I'll now hand it over to Michelle.
Ask number 2, We would like you to use our design vision to inform what you do and how you do it. We ask all organizations who help families to look at our vision. We ask you to think about whether your way of helping families reflects our vision. We ask you to name 3 actions you will take to help change the system so that it better reflects our vision. I will now hand to Juliet.
Our ask 3 is bring our good help principles to life. We ask the Children's Trust Partnership Board and the Children's Safeguarding Partnership to use the students' design concepts to help you do that. They have made it easy for you to take action. But we ask you to build on what we already have rather than create lots of new services that would just take us back to the beginning. I will now hand to Alina.
Thank you, Juliet. Ask number 4. Make sure your organization reflects our good help values all the time, every time. We ask everyone on this call to think about whether everyone who works in your organization can say they practice these values every day. If the answer is no, then we ask you to make a pledge to take one action that will help you that will help your answer to be yes. This is so eventually all help can feel like good help. I will now hand to Nadine.
Sorry, everyone. Hello. Thank you, Alina. The last ask from the parent expert group is that we would like to meet with you or again in 3 months to hear your reflections on what actions has happened from today. I would like to give my personal reflections on the parent changemaker that we have been together in the last months. Being a member of the Changemakers parent expert panel has been quite a journey for me. I've been privileged to be part of the discussion board, which has focused on the issues emerging through the COVID-19 pandemic for ourselves and for other Camden families. During my time on the panel, I highlighted historical things that we all cherish in Camden, including places, infrastructures, and the challenges Camden has faced in our today's society, amongst other antisocial behavior. Subsequently, I voiced my views in terms of what constitutes a good help, as well as bad help within Camden institutions. Finally, I contributed to the designing of a framework of help, which should be used to reach out to all Camden families during and after the pandemic. While some lost their jobs and businesses, education establishments, community centers, and other civic places were forced to close their doors, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has harmed the health, social, and material well-being of our Camden families, especially those living in low income. I shall therefore propose 2 additional recommendations. First of all, I recommend that Camden Council help schools mitigate education loss caused by the pandemic by giving Camden schools and colleges resources that can potentially help extend their capacity in things like breakfast club, after school clubs, and so on, and ensure these are offered for free or at least at a very low cost, wherever possible. Immediate Camden measures should ensure children continue to have good food, good nutrition, and access to activities which can protect their mental and physical well-being. Secondly, with the level of infections being minimized by the vaccines and various guidance in Camden Council policies also needs to design a support package, one that can ensure parental employment, since it is a key fighting poverty in families and child poverty. However, we understand that COVID-19 has had a negative impact on our economy too. Until immediate and comprehensive measures are taken, the growing inequality in parent resources will continue to increase, and may represent more challenges in the years to come. I will now pass to Anna.
Hello, everyone. We are grateful for this opportunity to the project give us to feel safe emotionally, to talk about our experience, to express ourselves, and to come together to work in our decision. We would like to be a legacy for the future, for parents to work together on issues, so there are more projects like this. We would like you to know that this is a great and give us a platform to speak to you. Thank you. And now I will hand up to Jasmine.
Thank you, Anna. So we want you should know that Camden families are strong and united, and what we can do, not just during a pandemic. We have done our part and we will continue to play our part. It needs your commitment and energy too. We would expect a good outcome on your part so that together we can see those changes reflected in our tomorrow lives. Listen to what we have to say, because difficulties could happen to any one of us. Even if we face challenges, we can work together to come out of it. We thank you for listening. I will hand back to Becca to introduce the students.
Thank you, guys. It's important to just say as well that that script was put together with comments and ideas and views of all the parents from the last workshop that they had together. So that script is entirely pretty much put together from the parents' own voices, some of whom are here today and some of who couldn't be with us. So thank you very much to everyone. I'm now going to hand over to Sylvia, who's going to introduce our students.
Yes, thank you, Becca. I will stop screen sharing because the students will share their own screen. But first of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm Sylvia Grimaldi. I'm the course leader for the MA Service Design at London College of Communication, which is part of UAL, the University of the Arts London. And the project came about through a collaboration and partnership that the Public Collaboration Lab at UAL has had with Camden for a number of years. And it involved 2 graduates of the MA Service Design who were interning at Camden throughout the time of the project. And this is Angela Tam and Laura Leahy. And then 44 students from London College of Communication, which were 30 from MA Service Design and 12 from MA Data Visualization, who were involved in the initial part of the project. And there were 3 phases to the project. So the students went through system mapping, then they looked at design justice as a framework for designing, and then they went through a phase of co-design in which they worked with parents and stakeholders across the whole of the borough. And so I will pass you to our 3 brilliant students who will present the work that the students have done. And these are Davika, Fianda, and Marina.
So welcome everyone at today's presentation about defining what good help actually is. As already mentioned, it is a collaboration between the Camden Early Help, University of the Arts of London, London College of Communication, and the Public Collaboration Lab. My name is Fianda, and together with Davika and Marina, we are MA Service Design students, and we will take you along today through our projects that we have created with our whole class. So what is service design actually? Well, service design, a service is something that helps someone to do something. This means it is a human-centered discipline, which is focusing on designing a service in a public or a private sector. It is about participative and iterative and qualitative manner of talking and creating together with your stakeholders. So it's really considering a wider system to play in. Together with the Early Help, we have created a brief where we could work in. So it was really about the question like, what is good help meaning for 2 people, and what are the preferences of families to seek help, but also how do they receive help. And especially within this really strange time in the pandemic, how do they seek help in this time, but also after this time? So it's really about providing different help for different needs and with different methods as well. As you already heard from the families itself, they have created a manifesto about the principles for what good help is and what it can be. So we use this manifesto mainly to guide ourselves as students to really see how the projects can go through. And regardless of the end result, it was a thing to go back to. So what did we do actually? So we worked together with the Camden Borough. We worked together with 20 changemaker families that gave us really a lot of insights about how everything worked. So as MA Service Design students, we collaborated with data visualization to really create like service mappings and learn from each other. To collect information, we talked to multiple local Camden stakeholders like teachers, policemen, or social workers to really see and get different perspectives to the story itself. And to help us a little bit more, we got conversations with industry experts to really incorporate what design can do. And this led to 9 unique projects that Devika is going to talk about.
Thank you, Fiona. So as she just mentioned earlier, as a response to this brief, our students delivered 9 distinct projects that can be loosely grouped into the following 3 categories that you see on your screen. At this point, I would like to inform you that unfortunately, we cannot delve into the details of all projects, even though we would have loved to. However, we have uploaded videos explaining all projects on Vimeo and shall be sharing the link on the chat shortly. I promise you it'll be worth your time to go through them. So, the first category is service transformation. Students have identified existing offerings and opportunities within the system, so it isn't about reinventing the wheel, but instead to amplify what's already working within the help services. The first project I'd like to explain is called Camden Shares. Through research, interviews with families and other stakeholders, the students understood the complexity of problems faced by help seekers as they navigate through barriers of inequality and low levels of trust. Therefore, the project provides a meaningful strategy for the help providers to constantly reflect, learn from one another, and evaluate their services. So as you can see, the project aims to build empathy and trust by deploying a reflective model. Camden Shares coordinators on the right in the image are appointed firstly to invite families in Camden to share positive and negative experiences as a rich source of feedback. Secondly, they will facilitate and conduct reflective sessions for the early help workers to learn through active listening and having authentic conversations. So this method is to unearth underlying assumptions, beliefs, and social norms that always inform our actions in order to constantly improve the human relationships between help seekers and providers. So what the project does wonderfully is listen to what the families mention in their manifesto. That is, to provide help that is inclusive, accessible, and trustworthy. Ultimately, the purpose is to create an ecosystem of trust involving empathy, compassion, and better quality of help in Camden communities. Now, the second category is called Disruptive Design and Policy, where students have created 3 projects that look at implementing novel solutions at an experience as well as fundamental level in order to address pain points they've identified in the existing services. So the project Resilient Blocks is a tool that serves as a conversation starter to facilitate this intake process, as research dictates that the current assessment feels cold and unwelcoming. Resilient Blocks empowers families to co-identify their needs and co-define their version of good help for them. So as you can see in the image on the right, the family can use different blocks to connote their dynamic and ever-changing needs. The goal is to use the concept of play to lower inhibitions, build trust, destigmatize asking for help, and encouraging open conversations. As you can see in the next slide, the basis of this project is quite easy to use with specific instructions. What's wonderful is that it's incredibly flexible. You don't really need plain blocks if you don't have them. Any objects around you can be used to get the message across, as the ultimate aim is to involve physical elements to facilitate meaningful exchanges. This project too directly ties in with what Changemaker families have shared, which is the desire to communicate equally with the help providers and build upon the existing assets and strengths in the community. Now, the third and final category is reimagining the futures, in which projects reimagine a completely new way of organizing and viewing help services by leveraging existing strengths in the system and delivering innovative interventions. Now, Community Circle is a network mapping tool that utilizes the pre-existing knowledge and experience of its residents to offer support to local families. As you can see on the right, through a simple visualization tool, families can map the forms of help available to them. The service does something which is highlight and build on the network of supportive relationships that already exist in the community and make people realize that access to help is easier and closer than you think. It promotes a strong, connected and supportive community that is good for everyone's well-being. This project listened to what families in Camden really want by showing that there's always an easy way to ask for help, to create a supportive and connected network of help, and finally empower families to create their own network of trust. Over to Marina now.
Thank you so much, Devika. So as these projects have illustrated, there truly is a huge power in using service design as a tool to build connections with the local community. As you can see from this quote by Dr. David Somek, who is actually one of the industry experts we spoke with, service design at its core is about empowerment. It's about helping the local community identify and guide themselves towards the solution that works best. We're not here to prescribe or to dictate what the right answer is, but rather our role is to act as facilitators, helping all these different stakeholders come together, sit around the table, and envision a new future, coming up with concepts that can then be made into a reality through design. Now, what does it actually look like to work with designers? As you have seen from the initial family video, in this particular case, because of COVID, it involved a lot of online digital post-it notes. But traditionally, we would see a lot of engagement, prototyping, that is to say, testing, where people can actually work and try the different projects for themselves, see what works, reflect on the experience, and continue iterating until we get to a solution that we feel guides us in that direction of a desirable future. In terms of specifically the principles at the core of this process, we see that whether it's online or in person, they remain the same. And that is focusing on empathy, focusing on collaboration between stakeholders, a constant process of reflection to think about what it is that we're doing, what's the possible impact and the responsibility with our projects, as well as thinking at different scales. That is to say, what is this experience going to feel like for the individual person, but also how does it slot into a larger narrative of a wider system? All of these variables put together lead to strategic thinking that create meaningful interventions. And it is then through clear storytelling, which hopefully we're engaging in right now, that we can truly communicate and keep users at the center of our designs as we think of socially beneficial interventions. Now, more specifically for us as students, what was this experience like? Well, I'm very happy to report that we all agree that it was a fantastic one. As you can see from all these quotes over here from our reflections, students truly felt that this experience allowed them to reflect not just on the immediate project at hand, but also what is the future of the industry for us? What is the work that we see ourselves doing in the future? As well as how tangible this project was, truly helped us think, okay, how is it that what we think, what we design, and what we do will actually impact the families and different people we engage with? Overall, this opportunity was an amazing chance to work very closely with multiple stakeholders and constantly be reminded of all these different perspectives. Again, emphasizing our role as facilitators as opposed to agents that dictate what needs to happen. So with all this in mind, we just want to take a moment to thank Early Help and the families that work so closely with us, as well as all our stakeholders. And we hope that all these projects will help inspire the council and everyone else in attendance to truly think about what the future of Good Help in Camden could be and put their time and resources into ensuring that that future comes to life. Thank you. Now, if you have any comments or questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Marina. That was really incredible to see the two journeys that come together, the parents' journey, the students' journey, and how interwoven the whole thing was. I'm going to hand back to Martin now to continue on with our agenda. Thank you, Martin.
Thanks, Becca. And to say that that was inspiring would be a bit of an understatement, but there's an awful lot in here as well. And some of the technology has not helped us. I'm really keen that we explore the ideas that have been discussed with a bit of a Q&A, and we then have an opportunity to hear from Councillor Georgia Gould, the leader of Camden Council, but I'm sure that this feels very much like a starting point, because we really need to digest and think about the deep learning that's taken place here, and that the combination of the authentic voice of parents and the power of good design through the work from UAL students is remarkably inspiring. But enough from me. I'm going to ask people to raise their hand using the hand signal if they want to ask a question. And if you could just introduce who you are and say who you are, and say who, if you've got anybody you particularly like to answer the question. If not, we'll throw it open for volunteers. So who would like to ask some questions of either our parents or our students or others? Great, we've got someone. I'm just trying to see who.
It's me, Kathy.
Kathy, thank you. I was just, it's not showing the name on the side, and I thought, well, that's great.
You've got so many attendees that I'm sure it's a forest to try and find a.
It is. There's 105 people on here, Kathy, yeah. But you're very welcome. Please ask your questions. Just introduce yourself to people as well. It's great to have you here.
Yes, it's a delight to be here. I'm Kathy Evans. I'm Chief Exec at Children England, which is a membership body for children's charities. We also have our office in Camden, so I feel a particular affiliation to Camden, even if we are a national charity. Such huge thanks for sharing this work. And for all the voices that came with it. I don't underestimate at all how difficult it is to juggle the technology and the input and the heartfelt content. I'm hit from listening to it by the words empathy and trust. Like, they come through everything. There are some beautiful phrases, and it's clearly in the values. My question actually is to you, Martin, and potentially any of your other council senior colleagues, because I get a very strong sense from what all the parents have said and your researchers have said of a sense of what they want and what's happening. I'm wondering how that, what are the challenges in manifesting that in a council at the moment, and how are you going to pick up on the idea of being empathetic and trusting and having this flexible, ongoing reaction to what individuals need?
Thanks, Kathy. I didn't realise that was coming straight back at me. But
yeah, sorry.
I mean, the first thing to say is that the things that are being asked for are, I think, consistent with our underpinning values. The question is, particularly after the pandemic, are we thinking about those things first as we design our response with our communities, or are we adding them on after? And I think what the challenge that's come from the parents and the students today is to use design thinking, person-centered design thinking, and to put those values at the forefront, not as an additional extra. We have a very strong Children's Trust partnership in Camden, so we come together not as single agencies but as a system to think about how we best support families. And I know that, as Angela said, as the chair of the Children's Trust partnership, we'll be coming back and actually using the output from the session to help answer the questions as we think about the particular aspects of work we want to do with families to support them in the post-pandemic era. So that's a commitment rather than a kind of list of actions, but that is an absolute commitment from me. So let's see if there are any other questions, preferably not for me. Angela.
We are trying hard to really change the way we do things. And as I was saying earlier, I was meeting this morning with parent champions, and we have a number, I think 30 to 40 parent champions now working in our early years service. And they are our ambassadors, but also as our critical friends. So they're champions and critical friends. And I think I mean, I can't praise their work enough, and I think it's transforming the way in which some of our early years services are actually being delivered. I know Christine Gilbert's on the call here as well, and she is the chair of Camden Learning, and she and I and others are working on developing an education strategy for Camden. And I very much hope that some of these values, and particularly the emphasis on empathy, building trust and relationships, will also become an important part of our educational practice. So we're on the journey, but we're sort of just at the start. We're not quite just at the beginning, but we've got a long way to go. But I think, as Martin said, we're building on values that are deeply held by all of the council and very much embodied by the approach of our leader, Georgia Gould, who may say something more at the end when she makes her closing remarks.
Thanks, Angela. And I think we've got Suzanne Bowyer is the next question. Suzanne, you're welcome. It's always good to be working with Research in Practice.
Yes, yeah. Hi, I'm Susanna from Research in Practice. So exciting to hear the work that's gone on there, and just a couple of reflections. One, I was just this morning in a session about the Care Experience Conference and the pledge that they made, and hearing about involving care leavers and adult care experience people in developing and designing services, and that what the tools and the the bravery and excitement that you all together have generated through these collaborations are a real inspiration, I think, to other organisations and groups, community groups around the country to use that kind of expertise from different disciplines like service design to make that happen and make that into a really lively, engaging process. I'd love to hear. It must have been interesting for families in that process in the middle of the pandemic. Whether that was something that really kind of enlivened what was been some very strange times. I hope it looks like it did, and it'd be interesting to hear how that was on a personal level. But the other thing is that I would just wonder about whether any of you had any reflection on, I've been doing some work, writing some stuff around early help and, what's called early help and you're calling help, which is a great sort of shift, I think, anyway. But a lot of what you read is about sort of thresholds and rationing and, this kind of, the opposite really of what you're saying. What you're saying is, let's open it up, let's destigmatize asking for help instead of making help something that, indicates, maybe that things are going to get worse and worse and all the rest of it. And I just think that's a fantastic vision of help to hear at this time. And I just wondered if you had any reflections about what that means for you in terms of the major shift from where a lot of organisations and local areas are in terms of anxiety about managing demand. You're kind of saying the opposite. You're saying kind of bring it on.
Thanks, Susanna. And yes, this isn't about managing demand for public services. This is about working with our residents and citizens to recognising that we all need some help sometimes. And if we can organise ourselves using the principles of ease of access, for example, was one that really stood out for me. Then I think we have a different conversation, which isn't about how do we prevent ourselves helping anyone until we absolutely have to, but how do we get the right help at the right time in the right way with people, not done to people. So that's very much the future that, as far as I can see, we're on a losing position if we get into that kind of demand management argument. But really, I wanted to pick up your first point and just see if any of the parents wanted to give a reflection back about whether the process was helpful during the pandemic. Though don't feel under any pressure to answer, but I didn't want to lose that opportunity.
Martin, I think you've got Nadine, then Osob. Nadine, did you have a reflection on that?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Nadine.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't see the list, which is very annoying.
It's okay, Martin. Yeah, I was going to say, when I got called to participate in the parent changemaker board, I was very happy. That's because it happened during the pandemic. I was already one of the people that started to feel a little bit like going a little bit crazy, you know, having a lot of stress here at home because I got disconnected with, you know, the university place where I was attending. My kids were at home. I could not really see neighbors as much. So it was already shaking me, the pandemic and effect of it. So, and when I started with the families, you know, it was online. You know, at the beginning, it was a bit like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't really like to do things online with people. I like face-to-face. I'm a kind of person like that. But when, you know, we started, and because it was all, you know, well-structured, well picked up at the beginning, you know, everything to know each other, everything was a bit like in a way to guide me through that, you know, feeling that, you know, you have other people on the other side, you know, other side of the ears, they listen to you. I began to indulge myself and feeling a bit of place there where I could say, okay, now I can open up more. So it really, yeah. So it really, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And Asob, I wanted to just give you a very brief moment because obviously unfortunately we couldn't hear you at the beginning, so it'd be
sorry.
your reflections, Asob.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had a signal problem earlier. When I was approached to do this, I was firstly hesitant. Secondly, I was excited to give my opinions and my views and everything. And on the process of doing this for 10 weeks, I have learned that everyone has different opinions and different views on how everyone feels about Camden. And we all love Camden. It's just that we just don't see that changes. We really want to change and all that. And I loved getting involved in the process, the talking to the students and everything, and the design ideas, and working with wonderful, amazing people from Becky to Elaine to the family members. It was every day coming in there excited to see everyone's opinion, everyone's what they're missing, what they wanted, and everything. And I got excited, and I'm happy that this is what we came at and how we work together as a family members of this beautiful industry. And I hope that you guys take what we say to heart, and hopefully you change what we are saying.
Thanks, Asob. That really sums up nicely, I think, where the challenge to us all, actually. And I'm really pleased we've had the opportunity to hear from you. I'm afraid there is, I can see that Councillor Wright has her hand up, but we're running out of time. So I'm going to, if you'll forgive me, Anna, I'm going to hand over to Councillor Georgia Gould, to Georgia, who's leader of Camden Council, for her final reflections. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It was just so powerful to hear from the parents here, and it was just an incredibly inspiring hour. And well, firstly, a huge thank you to all the parents who were part of this. I think the work you've given us leaves an enormous legacy, and it's wonderful to see such a strong and united vision. And there's so much that comes out of the work that I think we can all learn from about the importance of having no judgment in how services are delivered, as others have said, about trust and empathy. What really struck me was one of the phrases, "Good help doesn't give up," and that persistence and supporting people in really difficult times, and building on the strengths and stories and experiences in families in Camden, and just I think there was a phrase I wrote down. The strength and gifts and wisdom, and I think that today we've heard all of that in just such a powerful way, and I think that what you've done is going to make an enormous difference. So thank you, and I think there was a really important challenge in the presentations as well about the level of inequality in Camden, and the poverty that has deepened during the pandemic, and the role that we have in trying to challenge that, which is deeply important. And I also wanted to say thank you to the amazing students, because the work you did, the listening, the new tools you brought, the kind of bringing yourselves and your own family stories, it was a genuinely powerful collaboration. So thank you for all you brought to this. And some particular thank yous to Adam Fort at Public Collaboration Lab, and Dr. Sylvia that we've heard from today, Angela Tam, who provided all the graphics, Elaine at the council, who did all of the practical arrangements, and Michael Bonds, who I understand made the introduction that brought this all together, as Michael so often does. But also to all of the early help team, because Becca and the team just have taught me so much about how to deliver services with through relationships, through love, through communities, and building on strength. So this is just a great example of the work you do. So very quickly, I think there was 3 pledges that was asked for. So I think my 3 pledges are: I'm co-chairing Camden's Renewal Commission, which is around recovery. So I pledged to make sure that the principles that parents have set out are at the heart of that. I would say that I pledged to make sure that this is how services are delivered in Camden, but I know that Becca and Martin and Angela will do that. So I pledged to support them, to do anything I can to support them, but also to take the work that you've done to colleagues in other parts of London and the country, and to share it more broadly, because I think it is so important. And for me, it's part of what we're trying to do as a council, which is working with our communities to solve challenges, recognising that there is so much we want to do to ensure that everyone in Camden thrives, but we cannot as a council do that alone, and we need to support our communities to lead that change. And this is just a really powerful example of that work. And it's wonderful to see colleagues not just from Camden but from other parts of London, and it does feel like there's a bit of a movement for change happening that is most importantly led by families, by young people, by people in our community. So yeah, thank you, and I'm excited to see where it goes and what it all turns into.
Thanks, Georgia, and I think that really sums up what's been a very exciting session, but is the start of that movement for change that you describe in this area, and we want to really take that work forward. So it just remains for me to say a huge thank you to everybody that's attended, to urge you to look at the presentation and the video, and make sure you circulate that widely as well. And then we'll bring this information back into our various discussions and decision making, to challenge ourselves to really respond to the manifesto that you've set out and the design principles that have been described. But thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. See you soon. Bye.